Prospector special. Well, Jeff is going to tell us we really are not ever humans. We're never going to get on the planet. So then we have to look at the story and say, well, what else can we talk about as far as the story? So in Prospector special, I would encourage you to think about the critique of capitalism and the commentary on bureaucracy, as well as the representation of human-robotic interaction. So we still have three things to talk about, even though there's not a lot, I think, to talk about the science of what we know about Venus. But as we've discussed before, the author who wrote this story did not have the advantage of all the knowledge that we have about what Venus is actually like. So Jeff, fill us in on the real Venus.
It's pretty bad. The only actual landing on Venus up until now has been a Russian spacecraft that landed on Venus quite a long time ago now, and only survived for a couple of hours because the conditions are so difficult on Venus. It's about 900 degrees. The air pressure is about 100 times the air pressure on the Earth, and the air is about 100% carbon dioxide with a little bit of acid rain thrown in.
No sand wolves then.
So the sand wolves would have to be pretty well armored to survive there. Obviously, if something evolved on Venus, then it would be something that evolved to live on Venus. But as far as humans going out and wandering around Venus, trying to stay away from wolves, I don't think that can happen.
Right. Sometimes science fiction is only fantasy. Now the next story, the Comet, the Cairn, and then some other alliterative term.
The Capsule.
The Capsule, 3 C's, that's alliteration. That story, I think, is a little more believable. But what I'd like you to think about, Jeff will talk about the science in a minute, but what about the decision of the astronauts to let the Cairn exist and not try and bring it home? That's another ethical issue in science. Of course, the people on Earth want it brought to Earth and they want to study it. But in terms of communication and first contact, who made the right decision? And that's something that we will talk about in the live blog, because you can argue both points of view, I think, pretty
effectively.
So Jeff, tell us about some real life examples of this kind of exploration.
Well, this actually happened back in the 1970s when the Voyager mission was being developed. Carl Sagan suggested that there should be a message on board the Voyager spacecraft. It's going to go off. It's leaving the solar system. Probably never will be picked up by aliens, but he thought it was worthwhile to put quite a detailed message and a record with music from Earth and other things on the spacecraft, and that in fact happened. And so these 2 spacecraft are leaving the solar system, and each of them has a message on board. And so that's, I think, exciting, and that's obviously what some of these other aliens have been thinking when they put these Cairns on the Comet route. They also had the choice of taking off the previous aliens' Cairn and taking it home for study, but they decided to make this sort of a message board for the universe. The other thing about the mission itself to the Comet is actually fairly realistic. We just had our first mission called Rosetta, which went to a comet last year, went into orbit around the comet, and a small lander went down and landed on the surface of the comet. Now, there were no astronauts on board, but this is definitely the first step towards a mission like the one in this story.
And you might want to think about why they named that mission the Rosetta mission. What is the Rosetta Stone, and how does that relate to the theme of this story? Lots to think about with this story.
That's a very good point, Robin.